Now let's examine Yum configuration. Yum is a means of providing updated packages, RPM packages, to your Red Hat Enterprise servers. Let's return to our notes and just label this section Yum configuration. And it features, as mentioned, the ability to centralize packages, in particular updates. And this is all built in, but we need to configure it and make it available. There's a package, so let's label this section installation known as create repo that we need to install. So install create repo star RPM on one of your Red Hat Enterprise servers. The create repo package includes the necessary tools to generate the metadata for the Yum repository based on wherever you've placed it in your file system. So we're going to do a few things here. We're going to install create repo on our local system, download the RPM packages from the 5.1 build to a directory, create the metadata, and then re-upload the packages to our web server. And then we'll be able to configure our Yum client to get the updates. So, first step is to install create repo RPM. Let's navigate to Firefox and search for create repo. There's the package. We'll copy the entire link using copy link location and then install it locally. Of course, since we know a little bit about RPM now, we can RPM query all grep create repo to see if it's already installed, and it's not. So then we'll RPM UVH or IVH the full path to create repo. Now create repo is installed, and RPM query list create repo will reveal the contents of create repo, which includes the main utility create repo, which creates the metadata necessary for Yum clients to be able to download updated packages. But we're not done yet. We need to mix and match things. We need to bring the packages into a centralized directory or into a directory structure, either from the DVD or from a remote system using, let's say, LFTP, generate the metadata, and then re-upload the packages, or turn on Apache on our local system. Either or will do. But our intent is to serve the Yum package repository using HTTP, and since we've yet to look at HTTP during this edition of Linux CBT on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, we'll work with the current running version of Apache on the SUSE server, which is why we're uploading and downloading. So, create repo is installed. Now we need a directory structure that makes sense. We're going to create a directory structure which matches that on the remote system. So let's look at that. We'll SSH as root over to 192.168.75.100. This is the SUSE box. And we know that the directory structure is as follows. Serve www.linuxcbt.com rh5, beneath which we have the i386 server subdirectory. We're going to create a directory known as Yum, and in it is where we'll eventually upload all of the RPMs with the new metadata. But we also need to create this structure locally. So locally we want to create this directory structure just to make things equivalent. And we also need to ensure we have enough storage, and we do, 31 gigabytes, so we'll make directory serve www.linuxcbt.com. We're just matching them up. You don't have to follow this directory structure on your system, just as long as wherever you create the repository, you ensure that it is set up and accessible via a protocol such as HTTP. So since our HTTP server serves out of serve www.linuxcbt.com rh5, at least in the case of the repository, that's why we want to just make it the same. So now we have the full structure, and we can navigate into this full structure by changing directories into it, and then download all of the RPMs from the website into that directory, then create the repository, then re-upload it to the server. So we'll have double data, but nonetheless, it'll work. Let's use LFTP to connect to this path. Now you'll see all the RPMs. All we need to do is get these RPMs across the wire using mget star RPM. This will pull everything locally into our directory, and momentarily we'll be able to run the create repo. Again, this is the long way. If you have all of your RPMs on a server, or if it's on a DVD, you set up a directory structure with all the RPMs, use the create repo utility, it creates a repository, and then so long as that directory is served by HTTP, you can configure your Yum clients to download from the location. So we install create repo. Next step, so we'll include this as installation and setup. The next step is to set up directory structure. The third step is to run create repo against that directory structure, which should still be in memory, and it is not, so only a portion of it is, and that is serve www.linuxcbt.com rh5 yum. Once the metadata has been created, we'll publish the Yum repository using HTTP, however you intend to do so, either locally with a Red Hat system, remotely with an IIS server, it doesn't matter. And then fifth, configure Yum client to use HTTP to fetch the RPMs. So these are the steps that you need to cover. Again, there may be more or less depending on what you're doing, but the bottom line is you need to install create repo on a Red Hat box, set up the directory structure either from DVD or from wherever you have your RPMs, the latest version of the RPMs, run the create repo against that directory structure, and then publish the directory structure using HTTP, followed by configuring the Yum client to download packages from that directory structure. Let's see where we are with the download process. We should be able to confirm locally in a separate window. Let's find a free window here, the current status. We'll log off LinuxCBT serve 4 for now, then navigate to serve www.linuxcbt yum rh5, that is yum. And so far a lot of files have been copied. DUCH will tell us, and it's 1.1 gigs. The total is over 2 gigs, so we'll just wait it out. And just a quick note regarding the yum.conf file. We can jump to that step at this stage, step 5. That file is located in etc, and it's known as yum.conf. It contains very few directives, of which the important one is the base URL directive. So let's ensure that we're root because we need to be in order to make changes to the file. We'll navigate to etc, then modify using the nano editor yum.conf. And there's a repos directory as well. This is where you can put your repositories. Yum supports more than one repository when searching for packages, and will handle dependencies as well as version conflicts. So again, the base URL, that's a directive that's important in order for us to get access to the repository. So for now, our Yum repository, we'll just include a comment, included as our first repository on the SUSE box. And the directive is base URL, setting it equal to HTTP 192.168.75.100. This is where we'll publish it, rh5 yum. So Yum will know to search this repository. Also, when you launch the add remove GUI, the add remove software GUI, it'll check the Yum repository. So this supposes the repository is up and running. So on the remote system, we need to be sure that that directory exists, Yum, but it currently contains no files. And the RPMs won't be changed, so you can always save time by copying the RPMs from i386 server and then copying the differences, the metadata files created by the create repo process into that Yum directory. That'll save you some time, definitely. instead of copying the RPMs, because create repo doesn't actually change the RPMs. It just needs to know a full list of the repository, of the RPMs in the repository, to generate the metadata. Let's see where we are. We will use one of these spare windows. This one should do. And we'll change to serve www. And in fact, we should just also get our yum entry and paste in our notes. So to update the yum conf, we made the following change. That takes care of step 5. Step 4 is already taken care of because serve www.linuxcbt.com is the web root on our SUSE box. So we need to execute step 3. We already set up the directory structure, and that's serve www.linuxcbt.com rh5 yum. That's already taken care of. We've already installed the create repo package. So now we just need to run the create repo package and upload either the full directory or the differences from the local directory to the new HTTP directory on the server. Let's take a look to see where we are. We'll navigate to serve www.linuxcbt.com rh5 and then duch yum. Well, we're now up to 1.9 gigs, so we're making progress. And just be sure that you have enough space. We should just note that in our documentation. Ensure that about 3 GBs are available for the yum repository. It's really 2-point-something gigs, but roughly 3 gigabytes will cover your tracks. It will also cover you if you download packages from the Red Hat network. Now this yum repository, again, can consist of RPMs from various sources, again, including the Red Hat network, so you could use one subscription to publish updated RPMs into your local yum repository in your network environment, and then allow your other Red Hat servers to benefit from that local yum repository. Even if you had a subscription for each Red Hat server, it would be less than ideal to have each of them connect using HTTP to Red Hat servers for bandwidth reasons.